WebDriver, there is a separate instance called or a method called find element by. So that's a specific method used in WebDriver to find the elements on a web page. Okay, so that element can be anything. It can be identified by when I'm saying identified by, that dy by is also a specific class inside Selenium. So I'll just write away on that example now. What I'm saying here is we have to identify element by its properties. So there is a specific method for this purpose only, which will help us in identifying the element and with a specific property, like your own property. If you want to use an XPath, you can use an XPath. If you want to use DOM, you can use DOM. You can use ID or name, whatever property you want to. Okay. When there are specific values that you have to take care of, first thing that you need to concentrate or remember is how is that a value being concentrated or how is that a value being grabbed inside the table? Do I have to mention the specific name of the table or only the ID property of the table or a specific value here? We need not have to create any instance of talking about a WebDriver instance. In WebDriver, we do not have to create any specific browser instance because they are already available. We just have to make use of those browsers and get them back for our references. Okay. When I say browsers, what are all the browsers available in WebDriver? In WebDriver, I have almost all the browsers in terms of driver system. Like if I want to open Firefox, I have a Firefox driver. And if I want to open, Chrome, I have Chrome driver. And if I want to open Opera, I have Opera driver. Like that. So every instance that I have to create is being converted into method. Okay. So those methods we'll be making use of and call a page and an object inside the page for our references. Okay. Now here, what is the idea of our table here in this market space? Table 27, right? Having my page, right? Market space, right? Now, using the same URL, I open this page and access an object inside this page. In WebDriver, as I was telling you, we have everything to be identified as a method. At every instance, along with an object and everything. So directly there is a method called find element. In RC, if you want to open a browser, probably a Firefox browser, what is that we'll do? We'll just create a driver instance, right? And default Selenium class, all the default Selenium class will give all the properties, all the arguments, port number, URL, browser, everything, right? When I do the same with the WebDriver, I have a separate method invocation. Directly, you can call your WebDriver class like this. Okay? And if I want to call the WebDriver Firefox driver, I just say P is equal to new Firefox driver. Okay. This will bring up a Firefox driver instance automatically. No need of calling up the browser separately. Moreover, the moment I place my mouse pointer on top of it and will give me the class import statement. So I'll import my class here. Okay. Here it is. My user is imported. I also import my Firefox driver. Done. My Firefox is ready for use. So I can directly use my FD variable for accessing the Firefox driver. Simply, if you want to open a URL, I'll just say there is a get method for doing this. I write fd dot get this. It will take a single argument. Okay, and inside this I'll give the URL. I'll just copy this URL which we were using for my market page. Second thing, as I was telling you, once we get the page, we need to identify the objects inside the page. But before that, I just want to ensure whether my page which brings up all the objects is being loaded properly or not. So we have a traditional synchronization method, as you all know, that is thread or sleep. Now what is the class that I need to use when I use thread or sleep? Sleep method to make your control wait and let the page load with all the objects. Okay. So next thing, when after my page is getting synchronized or objects are completely loaded for element, I need to find an element with a specific name. Okay. So every element has, as I tell you, called as a So wherever we have a specific class called web element class, which helps us to access objects on a page. Okay. So I'm just importing. I'm just using that class here, web element class variable, and I just use some driver variable equal to. I need to find out an element inside my field. And here I'll use my driver object with find element method. So what is my driver object here? FD variable. Okay. So I use FD dot is a method called find element. Here it is. Yeah. Which one to select here? There is a simple change in it. One says find element, other one says find element. See that both of you? Okay. Hello.
Yes, Mahesh, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you.
No. Yeah. So find element method is used when you are after only single element on the page. Find element is used when you are after an element of same kind but more in number.
You have to repeat
I have more
again.
than one element of the same kind on my page.
Yeah.
Okay. I use web element when I have to work on only single object or an element on the page.
Okay.
I use web element. Okay. And I use web element when I have to work on a single object but it's more in number on the page. Like I have 10 links on a page. Then I have to use web elements method. Or if there is only one link on a page, I will use web elements method. Got it? So as of right now, my table is only a single table there. So I'm using web element. Okay. First method. Understand?
Okay.
Now I need to give a specific ID for my table. For that also, we have a specific class. Elements will have some IDs properties, right? How do I identify element? Identify it. So there is a specific class called by class. By dot. See, all the properties are listed. Can see the properties? ID, CSS, class, link text, name, XPath. Right? I'm using ID here. And within parentheses, within double quotes, I'll write my object name inside this and then close the bracket. As I remember, the name of my table is table 24. Inside my table, I have rows, right? Which are more in number. Like normally, I want to read the first column values which are more rows, 5 rows or 6 rows probably. Let us open that market page. Now here, see, this is a table. I want to read the first column value. There are almost like 6 rows in that table, right? When there are more number of objects of the same kind, we need to use web elements now and save them inside a list. So for that purpose, we have a list class which will take my web element as a reference. How do I do that is, first thing, I'll write my list instance. Give braces here, and inside this I write web element, which is a class that I have used for my table object. Okay? Understand? Now what is that I'm trying to find out inside this object? Rows, right? So I use the same variable to find the rows inside my table. Okay? Now where is this rows available inside my table object, which is having a name called table 25. Right? Now I say rows is equal to table dot, you know this, right? Variable name is table there, right? Now I use the same method but find element method. Now I am using find element, which is inside the list. See that? And that list is also taking web element. Right? Neat, are you understanding?
Yeah.
Okay. Now as usually inside this, I have to write my properties using my by class. Okay. And elements by dot. Normally tables will have tags, tr tag and td tag. So it will take tag name. Inside the tag name, I need to tell which is the tag that my rows will be. It will be on the tr tag. Okay. And then it can semicolon import your list class which will hold all the values inside as a row. Here I need to take my utility here. Not AWT, it is Java utility. That's a utility for me inside Java.
Okay.
Okay. Clear so far? Any questions? All my rows will be inside TR tag in a table.
Yes.
That is how normally it is there. So that is the reason as I am running behind rows here for grabbing the rows inside table, I use the tag name. And obviously the tag name, and I want to read the first column value. I want to also let the table know that this is the column. So I can use a for loop. Okay, now for loop we have my column. What is that I have to mention here? For inside my for loop, I will iterate. Normally, we have seen for loop like int I is equal to 0, I plus, right?
Yes.
That is how normal for loop look like, right? But here, I'm going to write an advanced format. So what I'll do here is, I'll take the web element instance and say web element, give a space. I want to use my row, right? Every row value inside my row is available inside my row. I say x colon rows. Okay. Now I am using a variable called x here. Rows is a variable which I use it to save my value. This is called an advanced for loop. Latest for loop. Okay. Each web element inside a rows variable. This for loop means for each element inside my web element saved inside rows variable, save it as a reference with x here. Because there are more than values inside the row. Instead of writing a traditional loop like for I is equal to 0, I less than 2, so I can write it in this way.
Okay.
So next thing, I have my rows. So again I need my columns also, right? Because the first column. So columns are also more in number. Go back and grab your list here. Again, my web element instance. Okay, I'm taking my list again. Inside the list, I'll call my web element instance. Okay, which is holding my rows actually. Okay. So while doing this, as usually, I wanted columns, right? I did for my rows. Now I'm doing it for columns. So I use the same variable called column. Something like that as a reference. Okay. So inside these columns, rows will always, I'm sorry, columns will always be inside rows, right? So I already have rows used here, so I use X here. X is a reference where all the rows are saved. Agreed?
Yeah.
Inside my for loop, I have X, right? For my rows.
Yes.
So I'm using X here. X dot. Now there is a method, normally find elements method. Here you don't see find element if you observe. It is on the second line. Normally this elements method comes on the first line. Where it is, I'm selecting my find elements method as it is the list here. Okay. Same, no change at all. Using my by class again. By dot tag name. For columns, what is the tag name? By dot tag name within parenthesis give CD. Okay, what's happening here? Okay, got it?
Yeah.
Are you clear so far?
Yes, nice.
Now I have a rows, I have a columns. What else? I need to write one more for loop for the iterating within my column. But I need only first column. Right? That I don't want all the columns, right? So I'll write a one more for loop which will represent my columns. Now this also will be in the same pattern, like for each web element inside column, save it inside a variable called y element space point column. That's my variable, right?
Yes.
Now I'm gonna print my value. Now how do I print my values there? Here that's a normal method. Like, oops. My get text method. Remember get text method which we use for make a text of all the elements, right? So I'll write y dot text. Here it is. You get the text of each every row inside the column. Okay. clear so far?
Yeah. Yes.
Next thing, I want to let my control read only first column. So I don't need other columns, I need only first column.
Yes.
Right? That's me.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I need to write a small conditional statement here, a small if condition, so that it suffices my control or let my
Your voice is breaking.
controller to be within the conditional statement only. Okay. So that condition can be, you can keep a counter if you want to. For example, before we write a bit here, and start a counter. I'm using some equation counter here, something like I is equal to 0. So that I want to represent my columns inside my table. Okay.
Okay.
While doing this, while getting the text of the rows inside my table, I will increment my value. Okay, here it is C plus plus or I plus plus. I don't want to use I, I'll make it as C as it is a counter. Okay, done. Now here I'll write a small condition saying if C is greater than 0. Okay, simply I'll break it out. Got it? And do nothing. While iterating the value, after getting all the rows values and while going to the next column or making my column iteration from 0 to 1, break it. Don't want to increment the column.
Okay.
Got it? That's it. Nothing much to do. I'm done. And for WebDriver, you don't need any server to be running behind. So you can directly right click and say just connect. You will not be seeing any server window. Directly it's a WebDriver location. And whenever you run any WebDriver instance, it will take few seconds time for the bringing up the results because WebDriver directly contacts your browser, not through a server, but through a profile. I'll tell you what it is. Okay, here is your page. Lakshmi, can you come back to Eclipse and look at the console, please? Hang on, I'll give you control.
Yeah. Yes, I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it is getting the values.
Is it displaying the values? So I could have given this example in RC. Just now I was trying to work on few methods in RC are deprecated. I mean, they made it out of use. I don't know reason why, because the blog is also not mentioning anything. But in WebDriver, this is the solution we have.
Okay.
Because I mean, in RC there are like huge classes like WebDriver back Selenium. There are like a list of huge classes in RC which I find being deprecated. Since
Okay.
they're trying to get rid of RC's methods and make WebDriver into complete. No, I can't say this right now. But as WebDriver is having a very good scope in executing the functional testing, this is the way which we have in reading a table and printing the values.
Okay.
Understood?
Yes. Yeah.
Neat?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is how we can read a table now. If you understood this program, next thing we'll have an assignment. So here I'm seeing the last column as previous close. The last three are images. I don't need images. I wanted a counter only for zeroth column. So I made, I wrote a condition saying 0 is greater than 1 or 1 is greater than 0, then break it. If I want to read the last column, I need to give the last